Hey everyone, it's Micah. On today's Bakeaways, we're going to dive into my first official bake, which was chocolate chip cookies. Um, I'd never made chocolate chip cookies before from scratch. So this was an adventure, and this was my very first bake right after the new year. I don't think I did it. I may have, well, I could look at the photos and see. I think I did it on the 2nd, on January 2nd. And it was so exciting to open all of the food and use all of the different tools that I bought for the very first time because I did, for the most part, build most of this up from scratch. Like I didn't have any of the baking ingredients, didn't have any of the tools, so it's really, it was really very, very exhilarating to do my very first bake and see how it turned out. The recipe that I used is the very first recipe in this book, Sally's Baking 101. And Sally swears by this chocolate chip cookie recipe. She says it's won contests. It's like the most amazing thing. She very much oversells it. Um, I mean, and I don't say that because the recipe is bad or turned out bad. I'm saying it because regardless of how it tasted, it seems like she oversold it. Like there's no way a chocolate chip cookie could possibly be as life changing as she tries to make this one out to be. So, note to Sally McKinney, it's really good. I would probably under promise and over deliver in the future though. So this is my experience making her chocolate chip cookie recipe. Again, I don't have anything to compare it to, but I will note um, divergences where I think there are divergences. Think, not know, because again, I haven't made them before. But I do have pictures with this bake. I know with my very first bake, I just kind of had to describe it to you, and that was super boring. And this will be scintillating by comparison. So let's get into my first bake. All right, so here we go. I'm I am experimenting with different ways to do my mise en place, and right now I'm kind of trying to conceptualize a pre mise en place situation, and that consists of setting out all of the tools that I'll need and setting anything that needs to come to room temperature out of the refrigerator. And for this cookie recipe, and you can see I've helpfully got the cookie recipe open on the counter there, and I have the bowls that I'm going to need, the whisk that I'm going to need, and then I've got my 2 eggs which need to come to room temperature. So uh, currently the way I'm trying to organize this is that rather than using the hour that it takes ingredients to come to room temperature and treating that as a hassle or as an encumbrance to getting my bake done, I use that time to really make sure I prep everything super carefully and super thoroughly. So this was my very first. This is the very first bake, and of course, I'm trying to be, obviously very organized. So I've set out all the stuff I'm going to need. This wasn't ended up not being all the stuff, but it was what I identified upon first glance at the recipe. And then I got my eggs out, and with the eggs out, the clock is ticking. Now it turns out that I needed the full hour. Please don't laugh at me. I needed the full hour that the eggs came to room temperature to do my mise en place. I'm very slow, and right now I'm trying to own the slowness and the deliberateness of my pace so that I make sure and don't mess anything up. I expect that I will get quicker as I get more experience, but I'm not going to sacrifice. I'm not going to try to speed through anything because that's when you start making mistakes. The speed will come when I'm comfortable with using the speed. But just full disclosure, after this point, it took a full hour for me to do the mise en place. So, I'm so embarrassed. An hour later, this literally took an hour. This is my mise en place. It literally took me another whole hour to get to this point. I've cracked the eggs into the ramekin. I've assembled all the other ingredients. I kind of did something a little sacrilegious. I used one of my bowls that I use for my food, like my oatmeal, to house the chocolate chips. I don't know what made me do that. I guess, I don't know. Like, I'm not really sure, but I know it didn't affect anything, but I'm trying to keep all of my baking stuff separate from my eating, my regular stuff. So I did create a violation there. So the rest of this is the flour on the left, which was sifted, and then we've got the granulated sugar and the brown sugar together in the bowl on the right. I think in the small metal ramekin, I think that is baking soda. And then in the front we have melted butter, which is Sally's hack for making wonderful chocolate chip cookies using melted butter. And then we have, of course, the chocolate chips. I'm trying to remember what's in the measuring cup. I said that was baking soda up top in the metal ramekin. What is the other ingredient? Like right now, I'm blanking on what that is. So I think maybe in the metal cup, it's the cornstarch and the baking soda and the salt. You know what? I'm wondering if I actually took this picture after I had combined some of the dry ingredients, because my overall idea with everything for the mise en place is to actually plate it out at the outset so that I'm sure that I have all my ingredients. Like, I'm sure some professional bakers are like, oh my God, you're wasting so much time. But for me, the first time that I say, oh, I'll just dump all the dry ingredients in because I know that they get sifted together in the first step of the recipe anyway. It's just as soon as I do that, I'm going to forget one of the 4 or 5 dry ingredients. I'm not going to have any visual reference to understand that. So if I physically see myself put each thing in right now, I know that that's kind of checking the box that I used all the ingredients. So, but here it appears that I may have already combined some of the dry ingredients. But I'm trying to figure out what's in the metal measuring cup there. And this is actually not just two eggs. Another one of her hacks is that she reserves one of the egg whites. So this is 2 yolks and 1 egg white in the white ramekin. And I don't really have a clue what's in the metal. I think maybe the vanilla is in there. That would be an odd thing to put 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract in, but I think I was just winging it. I guess with the blue bowl and the measuring cup, that was me being a little bit less exacting about what I was using. So we've also got the whisk. One thing I learned very quickly is that this silicone whisk is not optimal. I don't like the way it feels. It doesn't feel like it's really whisking as thoroughly as a metal whisk. So I went to the store and bought a metal whisk not long after this. But I do have this lovely retractable flat whisk, and I think it would also work as sort of a flat whisk for doing gravies and stuff as well. But at any rate, I used it for this recipe. So this is my mise en place, and yes, this took an hour. All right, so wow, that was quick. So I guess I forgot to take some pictures, but this was my cookie dough. I mean, there's not really much to do. You just kind of you kind of just combine all the ingredients and fold in the chocolate chips at the end. So there's not a whole lot of steps. It was basically like, it took an hour to get to this place, but I once I had this, it was like maybe fewer than 10 minutes to get it to this state. So I guess that's why I didn't take any pictures. So you can also see part of my inventory setup in here, which I didn't go over in my last video because I wasn't going to show you the inside of my fridge, but well, here it is. So you can see in the fridge I've got some heavy whipping cream, eggs, and flour down at the bottom. So we refrigerate the cookie dough for 2 hours. Very, very important for cookie dough, I'm finding out. And then another one of Sally's hacks is that she said you should form the dough into cylinders, very rustic cylinders. She says that the more irregular the shape is of the cookie as you put it in the oven, the more evenly it will spread. So the more you try to control it, make it a perfect little ball or a perfect little disc, it's going to cause it to fall out of that shape or bake out of that shape. I guess the idea is whatever you try to do to it is going to do the opposite. So I don't know if that's strictly speaking true, but I did experience what she was talking about in terms of like these irregular shaped cylinders flattening out into lovely round cookies. The cookies were a little bit crowded. A couple of them ran into each other. I used all 3 of my brand new baking sheets I used parchment on one, and I used the silicone mats on the other. I didn't have a silicone mat that fit that second pan. Those are 3 different size pans. But I was able to get these 22 cookies out of the mix, and the pinto beans will not be used as a topping. That was for something else. So don't be scared. There is no pinto bean sauce that these are getting dipped into. But these are my cookies out of the oven. This is a close-up look at them. They were super, super, super soft. And again, this being my first bake, and I was paranoid about the oven temperature, and I was paranoid about them getting too done because over-baking cookies is a cardinal sin. I think maybe they could have gone just a hair longer because they were really soft. As I was cooling them, that's the last picture I have on them. As I was cooling them on the baking racks, they were just barely holding on for dear life because they were so soft that they were about to like fall over. And getting them off the rack and into the I think one of them fell apart a little bit, and that's the one I decided to sample for myself. The rest, I was able to get them into the little cookie containers, and I ended up eating 2 of the cookies. One that fell apart as I was trying to take it off of the baking sheet, and the other was one that I held on to for myself. My verdict on how this turned out, I think I could have probably baked it for another minute just to get them a little more set. They were very, very soft, but I think the gooiness is part of what people enjoy about the chocolate chip cookies, so I'm not mad at that. These cookies were taken to, I'll just say, another place for other people to eat, and the feedback from where they were taken to was that they were really good. And this is going to be my frustration about getting feedback from people, is that unless I require people to fill out a comment card before I will feed them, which actually might not even work anyway because they have to eat it before they can provide feedback, and then I'm left with the honor system. But I'm going to always get limited feedback. You're never going to get as much detail as you want. People want to eat your damn cookies and then not give you meaningful feedback about them, which is really, really awful of them if you ask me. But the feedback was they were scarfed down. They were really delicious. I also found them very delicious. I think they were very close to as good as Sally said they were. But I feel like Sally, based on the recipes that I've had from her, I feel like she's very much into super sweet, super decadent, super moist and luscious desserts. That's the vibe I'm getting from her recipes, and I almost wish that there was like maybe just a teensy bit of restraint, because these were so gooey and so wonderfully buttery and chocolatey. Like it doesn't sound like a bad thing. It's almost like there's nowhere to go from here. They're just so freaking sweet and gooey. It's just like, I don't know. I feel like there's like a limit there that you're bleeding past at a certain point with your recipe if you're making things too soft, too gooey, too sweet. But it's a good problem to have. So that was my first bake, chocolate chip cookies. So today's bakeaway is I made cookies.